Good morning. Welcome to the Celtic Way Morning Briefing Live. I'm Tony Haggerty, Haggerty 10, and today I'm joined by Alison McConnell. Good morning, Alison. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks, Tony. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm good. Right, as we always do, the housekeeping. Alison will do the housekeeping and thank our sponsors who are the One Football app. And if you've not downloaded the One Football app, I suggest you do it. It's your one-stop football shop for scores, news, transfer rumours, lineups, live streaming, match highlights, much more. You can immerse yourself in the digital football experience and have the best personal digital football experience out there. And as you can see as well, running along the bottom of the screen, you can join us for 30 days, a 30-day free trial. You know what to do by now. Hit that subscribe button, www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. There, that's it. As easy as that, Alison. Now, Celtic matters, Alison, was all going along nicely. And then yesterday, all of a sudden, Vasilis Barkas vacated the premises. He's gone for a year-long loan to FC Utrecht in Holland. But strangely enough, Alison, there was no mention of an option to buy or anything like that at the end of the one-year long loan deal. Do you think it's a good move for Vasilis Barkas? And were you surprised at the fact that there's maybe not a caveat added on to the end of the deal?
No, not particularly. I think it was inevitable that he would definitely move on. I think it's in everyone's best interests that he goes and tries to rebuild his career. I think on a personal level, it'd be very difficult not to have a bit of sympathy for him and for what he's gone through over the last couple of years. And I think he was always going to, the likelihood was always that he would be moving elsewhere this summer. So I think a loan deal works. I think if you consider that he's played so little football over the course of the last 2 years, that he's lost his place in the international side, I think he'll look at this as an opportunity to salvage his career, to rebuild his career and really try and go again. And I think maybe Utrecht will want to see how he does, how he fares, and then take it from there. But I think definitely it was in the interest of both Celtic and the player himself to go elsewhere. He's not going to feature much for Celtic. It was an expensive signing that didn't work out for a number of reasons, and I think you would wish him well as he goes to try and find his feet again.
That's what I was going to say, Alison. Sometimes things just don't work out. I think Celtic supporters are disappointed the outlay that they paid for Barkas, and I'm sure there's a fine goalkeeper in there, but it just didn't work at Celtic for him, did it?
No, it didn't. And I think I know we've spoken this season about the likes of Kyogo and Rio Hitati and O'Reilly coming and going in and making an immediate impression in the first team, despite coming from different cultures. I don't think that's always easy. I think they've made it look easy this season. Yes. I don't know that it always is as straightforward as that. And I think when you consider he was coming in the middle of a pandemic, coming into really difficult circumstances from a different culture to a new language, a new way of playing, I think it was really probably quite strange circumstances for him. And the fact that it didn't happen, I think we never really saw any commanding performances from him. And yes. I think he looked like a player who was intimidated by where he was. He looked inhibited. He looked fearful at times. And I think as a goalkeeper, that can be particularly problematic. I think he probably needed a few big moments in big games just for himself, to endear himself to other people, to showcase what he had. I think he came with a particular kind of pedigree. He was an international goalkeeper. He played Champions League football. But I think sometimes it can be very difficult to recover when you don't get off to a very positive start, especially at a club like Celtic, where you tend to find that the jury can be out fairly quickly. And I think most people would have sympathy for him on a personal level because of that. And I think you would wish him well now as he goes and just tries to get on with his career, really.
Resurrect his career. Yeah, lots of comments coming in. Alison Kookaburra says here, I actually feel sorry for Barkas, but it's the best for both parties. Wish him well. That's what you've just said as well. Wilma Melvin says he was a flop. There you go. Beach Boys says loan deals are down to the player. If he doesn't see himself playing and staying long term in Utrecht, then he doesn't. A sort of buy-on clause is just a chance of playing for him. I get that as well. Tim on a wee bit more scathing. Barkas was probably worse than Ian Andrews, for those of a certain vintage who can remember Ian Andrews. And I think this is relying to your trying to find that. Yeah, you said trying to find his feet. This is do well to find his hands. Never mind his feet. Shocking recruitment, pura vida. Lots of different comments coming in there, Alison. But I think the overriding emotion is that if you're a Celtic supporter, you do wish him well. It's just not happened, and he's not been given. Well, he's been given an opportunity to showcase his talent, but it just didn't happen for him. And it is the best move for both parties at this juncture in his career, isn't it?
Without question. And I think there's no real surprise that he's moved on this summer. I think it was always going to come. And I think now it's just about an opportunity for Barkas to go and rebuild his career. And I think he came with a fairly decent pedigree. I know someone mentioned it was poor recruitment. I think he came with a fairly strong reputation. I think he'd had big performances. Sometimes it just doesn't work. Sometimes players just aren't a good fit. And I think it would be difficult to overlook the circumstances with which he came in too. And it was a particularly fraught season. There's an argument to say, he maybe contributed to that with some of the performances, but it was a very, very difficult situation that he found himself in. And I think you would like to see him go on and showcase what he has and rebuild his career, because on a personal level, I think it's hard not to feel sympathy for someone in that position.
Without doubt. Now, Alison, on that note, speaking of goalkeepers, in the Mail this morning, Celtic have been linked with Benjamin Siegrist, the Dundee United goalkeeper. Now, we've been speaking for a while about maybe someone else, another goalkeeper coming in to challenge Joe Hart. And there's a goalkeeper that I've mentioned a few times on the programme, Siegrist, and I'd always added the caveat that would he be happy to come and play understudy to Joe Hart and eventually challenge for that number one spot. Do you see someone like Siegrist as ideal for the bill, bearing in mind that Bain signed a new deal recently?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think he's a very good goalkeeper. I've seen him quite a bit. There's a couple of big mistakes last season, right enough, but I do think he's a decent keeper. I think I would agree with you. I think much would come down to his own position. Although I would qualify that by saying that I think football players and goalkeepers, I think anyone always has a mindset. They always believe in themselves that they can go in and take that first team jersey, that they could take the gloves. I'm sure he would back himself. I think we would discuss it. I think you can see that Joe Hart has the gloves. I think he's the number one keeper. And I think much would come down to the perspective of Siegrist if he thought, can I go and really challenge for that first team place? Because he's played first team football. I think he'll want to continue playing first team football. I think he might not be at the moment in his career content to settle with being a backup, and then it becomes a particular kind of mindset when you know you're going to go and try and push someone for the number one. Certainly, I think he's an interesting goalkeeper. I think he's a decent stopper, and I think it's a possibility.
Yeah, I mean, on that, do you agree that Celtic still need another goalkeeper, despite the fact that Scott Bain signed a new deal and they've got Toby Oluwayemi in the
Yeah, I think they probably could do with another goalkeeper. I think you saw last season, sometimes you have a spate of injuries around certain positions. I think if you lose one of them, you can have a problem. I think it's certainly for consideration anyway.
And what does that say about Toby Oluwayemi's path as well? The path into the first team, would he be disappointed if Celtic brought in another goalkeeper, bearing in mind he's doing quite well with the Celtic B team?
I'm sure he probably would, but I think again it goes back to the mindset and an individual's point of view. I'm sure he will fancy himself. I'm sure he'll have a belief in himself that there's a career about to open up for him. I'm sure he'll be determined to go and forge a pathway into the first team. I think there's an argument to say you could do with 3 senior goalkeepers, but I think it maybe comes down to what Ange Postecoglou sees on a daily basis. If he's watched them, if he's assessed them, if he thinks that he's capable of stepping up into a senior set-up and being that third choice goalkeeper, I think that will be reflected in whether or not there is another keeper brought in.
Lots of comments coming in here about Siegrist. I think he could challenge Hart. There you go. David Bradley says that, and Kookaburra comes back in and says 50 games a year is too much to ask of Hart. And then Wilma Melvin says we'd have Big Craig Gordon back anytime. That's an interesting one, isn't it? And somebody put in a comment about Oluwemi, which I wanted to highlight. Yeah, the Retro Celtic said Siegrist looks impressive, but I like to see our young goalkeeper Oluwemi promoted. Now that's, I guess, a lot of Celtic supporters like to see their own players coming through, and then obviously it's a question of do they buy another goalkeeper in the shape of Siegrist. That's fair enough. It's up to the club, and as you said there, Alison's Ange Postecoglou sees these guys, so maybe doesn't think Toby Oluwemi is ready to take that step up just yet.
Yeah, I think that's what it comes down to. I think it is an assessment on what you've got and what you need. And I think Ange Postecoglou is clearly the best person to speak to about that, because he's overseeing the development of these players. He's looking at the progress they're making. He's looking at contributions on a day-to-day basis, whether or not he's capable of setting up into the senior side. And I think you'll see that. I think it will be reflected in what happens in terms of sourcing another goalkeeper, just what the perspective is there.
Yeah. In terms of Siegrist, Alison, could you sell Siegrist and move to Celtic on the back of, look, I'll play you in the League Cup and the Scottish Cup games, something like that, but Joe Hart's my number one for the League and the Champions League games, and then see what he does? And if
I'm not sure that's how it would play out. I think if you're bringing in another goalkeeper, you want him to be pushing. You want him to, you want a competition really for the gloves. I think you would want to feel as though he was coming in to challenge and to really keep Joe Hart on his toes. I don't think Joe Hart's done much wrong this season at all. I think it's an argument to say he's been one of the best signings of the season. I think he played a really pivotal role in Celtic winning the title. I think fantastic leadership qualities. But I think if you're looking to bring in another goalkeeper, then I don't think you would qualify by saying, you might get certain cup games. I think you would be saying, I'm bringing you in, I have a first choice goalkeeper. Are you capable of coming in and pushing for the jersey?
I was just thinking merely in terms of if the player himself asked, would I play? I'll come in and challenge, but I don't want to just sort of sit there. If that's the case, I'm not going to play. But you can maybe say, well, cup games would be would maybe throw you in. Then that was all. But no, I get what you're saying there. It wouldn't automatically come down to something like that. But I guess if you're Siegrist, as you said, you've experienced first team football, and it'd be pretty hard to give that up, wouldn't it?
Absolutely, and I think I do think players back themselves. I do think players go and believe that they're going into the first team. They go and they have a mindset of I'm going to make myself the number one for that position, regardless of what their position is. I'm going to take the jersey, and I think it would be a consideration of his how much first team football he was going to get and how much he thought he could go on to get. I think he's at an age in his career too where he'll want to continue playing. He'll want to go up a level. If he's going to move, it'll be to go up a level, and I think he'll want to be competing and obviously playing every week.
Kookaburra comes back in. Siegrist has to believe that he's competing for the number one, so otherwise why would he come? No, I get that totally. Of course he would come in and compete for the top spot, but I think the way Joe Hart performed, as you've said, Alison, then it's going to take something special to oust him at the minute, isn't it?
I think he's been excellent. I think there were a few question marks when Celtic went for Joe Hart over the summer. I think there was a perception about him in terms of personality, and I think there was a perception about him of where he was in his career, and I think he's probably rebuffed both of those. I think performances have been excellent. I think what he's lent a solidity to the back line that wasn't there last season. I think he lent a confidence to it. I think there was an authority about his goalkeeping performances. I think it probably helped him that he was playing with a very settled defensive partnership, and as the season goes on, I think it's of benefit to everyone. And I think also the way he's conducted himself, I think he seems to have an affinity with the supporters. He seems to have bought into the culture around the club. He seems to have enjoying the being at a big club again, having the exposure, having the microscope on. There are certain players I think that flourish within the intensity of that environment. I think other players struggle to cope with it. I think what you've seen is he's a player who seems to relish it. He's played at top level football. You know the clubs that he's been at, the international experience that he's got. I think he feeds off the intensity that being at Celtic brings, and I think he's almost like he's another captain, I think, on the field. I think just with how he conducts himself. And I would agree with you. I think it'll probably, at the minute, you look at it, he's the first choice goalkeeper. If you're bringing in a backup, you want them to go and challenge for it.
Yeah, definitely. Now, speaking of Toby Oluwemi and the B team, there was some B team Lowland League news this week, Alison. The vote was taken, and Celtic, Rangers, and Hearts will compete in the Lowland League next season. You think that's a good thing?
From the club's perspective, I do. I think when you have younger players, they need to have exposure to competitive football. I think there's been such a sea change in the development of players, and you don't have the reserve league anymore. I think it is of benefit to play competitive football, to have exposure to that. I can see the point of view, the other side of it, in terms of the clubs, the lower league clubs. But in terms of Celtic, Rangers, and Hearts, I think you can see where they're coming from too, and you can see the benefits that it brings to be able to go and play in that kind of environment.
Excellent. Well, that's us covered the goalkeeping situation, Alison. We've sorted it all out, and the Lowland League B team squads. Excellent. We'll reconvene. Are you on with me again tomorrow, Alison?
I am indeed.
We'll same back channel tomorrow, and I'll just draw your attention once again to the strap line going along the bottom there. Free trial. Go on, give us a try. 30 days, Alison. Some excellent content. All your stuff's there. All Sean's stuff's there. Some excellent contributors and some of my stuff as well. You know what to do. Subscribe. Just hit the button. www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. Alison, top-notch contribution as always. Thanks to the contributors as well. We appreciate the comments in the box, and we try and read as many of them as we can. And I'll just put in the subscription link here, Alison. There we go. And have a wonderful Wednesday, and I'll see you all tomorrow. We'll both see you all tomorrow. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Tony.